Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Career Hive. I think, if I'm correct, is podcast number 9. Wow! So here we go. Just a quick update to say good luck to all our early career talented students doing their A levels, GCSEs, and any exams. Listen, you're smashing it, right? You know, you put the work in. I know it's tough and it's hard, but it won't be long until you'll have probably one of the best summers until results days and all that type of stuff. But listen, all the best. Keep working hard. Loads of exciting stuff as always at Future Match. We're busy working towards our launch of the rest of the MVP in October, but we'll talk a little bit more about what does that look like. We've had some really interesting conversations with a potential leading university in the UK around a potential partnership to sort of help them, deliver some of the really exciting apprenticeship programs and align that with some of the exciting organizations we're working with as well. So we're really, really excited about loads of stuff happening because we believe that this kind of partnership will add value. But again, we'll talk a lot about that. And by the way, we're down with the Digital Leaders Award. So please follow us on LinkedIn, follow the link, vote for us, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get nominated. So what is podcast episode 9 all about? Listen, it is going to be, for me, what I call a bit of a rewind session. And so we're rewinding the clock and we're going back into a sector that I truly love, right? I say that all the time. There's many sectors I love, but this one I really love. Why? I started my recruitment career in this particular sector. And it's one of the best, right? I think it's definitely underrated. But also when you look at its value, it's probably one of the most crucial to the economy, most crucial to every part of anything that exists in the world. It plays a real big part of that. The people are great. I think the world of opportunities are unbelievable. And until I had the chance of working in that particular sector on the recruitment side, I probably never understood the true impact. And to the point where nowadays I still drive my family and friends mad because I'll drive around a particular site and I'll go, oh my gosh, I know that company, oh, I placed that person, did that, etc. But hey, that's just because I really love this sector. So we're talking about all things property and construction. So property and construction is what we're going to be talking about in this particular podcast. Hopefully we're going to cover some really exciting data points so you get to understand just what this kind of sector means to the economy, and we're going to talk about its challenges. We're going to talk about some of the opportunities both from the apprenticeship and graduate level roles. And basically, look, we're just going to aim to hopefully position this so if you are a young person right now who's thinking to themselves, I've just smashed my A levels, university is not really what I want to do, what other opportunities are there? I'm not really someone who's sort of in other sort of careers like accounting and finance, IT, etc. I love being outside. I love creating. I love designing. I love engineering. I love building really exciting solutions. Whether the outside piece is probably a small part of that, and depending on what sector you go into. But I'm looking at something really different, right? I'm looking at something that I can travel the world with and build, and do any route I want to do. Property construction. So we're hopefully going to give you enough information to go, oh wow, I never really thought of what that sector looks like and the opportunities that are there. If you're a graduate and you're going into this sector and you've chosen your degree and you're on that pathway, we want you to come away thinking, wow, I'm really excited about the next 4 years. Not only am I going to smash my degree, but I know that when I come out of here, I'm going into a sector that is really going to be contributing hugely, not just to the UK, but to the world economy. So to me, that is how important property and construction is, and we'll obviously talk about that. So as I define it, it's probably one of the most diverse industries, because if you think about it, this sector can range from mining, quarrying, into forestry, to what they call construction, which is kind of infrastructure and buildings. We can go to manufacturing, to the supply of products, as well as the maintenance, operation, and disposal side as well. So just kind of take that on board. The fact that we're going from from the view of mining all the way through to actual disposal. So there's so many different aspects that this kind of sector really kind of touches. So as I said, wow, look at that already. I mean, let's just look at that and think about the range of what this sector means and what this sector can bring to a young person looking at talent. And I'm hoping as well, not only are we going to talk today about what this means for talent, but I know this industry, right? And I know it's got some really passionate, talented, driven individuals, some wonderful company brands that kind of like they are the foundations of where we are today. As, in terms of, if you look back to what's been built from from anything from Wembley Stadium to the railway line that you get your train to work, or the road you drive on. I also want, hopefully, that we can kind of give some information for companies, because I think one of the challenges this industry does suffer is that there's a perception, right? There's a perception that it's a high-vis jacket, it's out in the cold, it's getting my hands dirty and all that type of stuff. When actually, yeah, like every single career, I guess there is parts of it that would involve that, but majority of what you do in this role and in this career, in this industry, isn't necessarily driven to what that looks like. And we'll talk about that in more detail, but I just wanted to just put that out there to say, look, this is truly an exciting sector. So let's look at the data, right? 3 million jobs approximately are within that property and construction sector. It makes up approximately 10% of the UK employment side. And based on the Department for Business and Innovation and Skills, the breakdown is as follows. They reckon that in contracting, you've got about 2,030,000 jobs, circa 235,000 companies. The services side of that, that's about 580,000 jobs with 30,000 businesses. You got on the product side, you got 310,000 jobs and about 18,000 businesses that make up that particular part. So that gives you an idea of just how big this sector is. And the thing about construction is, yes, look, it's a high cost, high risk, long-term activity, right? So if you look at some of the big things we listen to, if you look at Crossrail, if you look at HS2, Hinkley Point, even when we did Wembley Stadium, when you're trying to build, when the Tottenham Stadium has been built, you can think of many big projects. But the bottom line is that, there's also, quicker turnaround projects. So because of these kind of core factors, its performance and how well property and construction does is a really strong indicator to the health of the wider economy. And if you hear this, this is something that I always started when I got into the sector. Someone said to me, you can always tell the prosperity and where the economy stands when you count the number of cranes. And I've got this bad habit. Every time I go somewhere where we're above crane zones, and if I'm in a hotel or in a bar and I'm looking down, I'm counting the cranes and I go, wow, things are happening here. It's always a really good strength. And if you are unfortunately part of a downturn, just have a look and you see how that level drops. And that really is why people look at what construction does. And there's loads of really exciting stats. So I read somewhere where they talked about that for every £1 generated, I think it was like £8 was spent in construction, it generated £8 in revenue. So this is just me just kind of just throwing some numbers, but that in essence it shows the level of productivity there. And as I mentioned, some really big projects like Crossrail, like HS2, the government's leveling up agenda, the infrastructure bill, all these things are built around how do we make this kind of sector blossom and deliver. The housing crisis, 300,000 new homes, how does that come into play? Guess what, guys? That's people building those houses, designing them, putting the planning permission around them, working on what does it need to look like, looking at the infrastructure from the minute you take a shower, how does that water go around? If we're going to design this site and we're going to build 30,000 houses, how do those 30,000 houses all coexist, and what's the phase we're going to do that? All these are roles within the kind of the construction chain before you actually move in and go, oh wow, look, I got my new house. How excited am I? Think about the things that have taken place before that. So what I'll do is I'll give you a kind of breakdown. And yeah, listen, this breakdown is how it was explained to me when I first got into property and construction as a recruiter for Hayes. And I'm going back too long, right? So I'm not going to tell people where that is, but that's literally how long it is. So we had construction, and I called it this because this is doing the building phase. So you have house builders, you have main contractors, and you have civil engineering contractors. So main contractors, where you could be commercial buildings, it could be, so offices, industrial sites, or the, main hospitals, schools. Think about anything in the building, that's where we're coming from. House building kind of explains itself, house builders, and civil engineering was mainly around, for me, was the roads, the rail, that aspect of where we were going. And then you have the consultancy space. So this is very much, if you think of civil engineering consultants. So, I remember finding out about acoustic engineering and how, I think if I'm correct, they did this in Wembley and they did this in Manchester United when they were trying to design the stand, and they wanted to see, well, how well does the kind of the sound of the team, the fans chanting and singing vibrate around the ground, and how does that create that kind of ambience? And that's just one part of it. The part that I remember with Wembley was transport planning. It's like, okay, so okay, we're building a stadium here, but here's where the underground is, or the rail station is going to be. How are we going to get A to B, and what's the flow going to look like, and all that type of stuff, and what does the transport infrastructure need to look like around that? So you've got all that type of stuff. Architecture, we talk about what does that look like. You then got the core property and construction consultancies. So what we can think about it here is building surveying, investment property, commercial transactions, cost management. So when you're building a project, there's a cost piece for that. There's this kind of advisory piece around working with with clients and trying to support what they're trying to do and advise and deliver the best solution they can do. Then you go into the property side, where you've got your real estate guys. So you've got your estate agents fall into that, but you've also got massive commercial, industrial agents as well, which don't just get involved with the transactional piece of buying and selling, but they also do the investment piece around, okay, we're going to buy that particular block of offices, and who's going to manage that transitional process. And funny enough, guess what, guys? Outside of that, you then got legal. You've got lawyers that get involved in this, and lawyers that specialize in this. You've got investment and banks and capital that specializes investing in all that type of stuff. So there's the kind of that link outside of that particular sector to just show you the different elements that come into that. So listen, there is so much going on in the sector. We haven't even talked about the fact that you then got what they call subcontractors, right? And we'll cover that, and some really niche subcontractors. They kind of bring specialist niche expertise on whatever that product or that project development or project build involves. You got the maintenance piece. So remember, we talked about that, and you've got what they call kind of hard facilities manager, hard FM, soft FM. So soft FM is mainly around the cleaning and security. So imagine when you walk into a building and you've got this massive office space, that has to be maintained, that has to be cleaned, there's security around that. That's what they call soft FM. Hard FM is the actual physical structures itself. So think about the plumbing and all that type of stuff, the air conditioning, all that type of stuff, the real nitty gritty parts of that building. So hopefully today, after that little bit of that intro there, every time you go home tonight and you look at that, as a young person or as a parent, you talk to your child and go, hey, what, let's just look at the house we built that we're living in right now, and let's look at the different jobs that took place to deliver what we're looking at right now. When we're on this road and we're driving and we're looking at everything, when the new supermarket gets built, when the new office block comes into play, we're walking, hopefully that will start to give you a picture of the different aspects of what comes into play. So, like every single sector, there's always challenges, right? And what I've tried to do today is, in our research, is kind of look at the challenges that mean opportunities for young people, that mean opportunities for those that are looking at this sector. So one of them being net zero by 2050. I think the government's really focused on how do you transform this particular industry so it becomes more productive. There's much more a sustainable building environment of what they do, and how do we make it internationally competitive, right? Which is really exciting if you're early career talent, right? Because I think there it comes in. If you're passionate about sustainability, if you're passionate about making a difference, why wouldn't property and construction be core to that? Because of these opportunities to do things differently, to do things more effectively, to be more productive, to be more competitive, but to be more sustainable. This is a real exciting opportunity for anybody in early career talent. There is a skill shortage, right? Because the genuinely is based on the fact of the pandemic and everything that's coming to play. There's a skill shortage, and one of the things that we're working with some organizations is trying to identify what skills do we need in 20 years time, in 10 years time. Based on the net zero targets we're trying to do, based on the challenges that we have with this urbanization that's taking place, how does that impact us, and the working from home. There's so many different facilities that you need to think about that come into play. This sector has an aging workforce, right, with the average range between 50 to 60 being the highest employment range. Now, what that means is, if I'm a young person, I've got a huge opportunity to go into a sector where I'm still going to get some really good on-the-job experience, really get a chance to get grips with the exciting industry, but I've also got a chance to progress my career faster. I've got a chance to learn from really experienced individuals. So to me, this makes it, if you're ambitious and driven and want to be part of something that's consistent, why not property and construction, right? The challenge, which is quite interesting, is that the employment levels are low since 2013. So that means that there's a real opportunity. Yeah, it might change as we get out, as we move and transition more and more and more post-pandemic. But actually what that means is there's loads of opportunities for you to access really exciting careers within that kind of space as well. Um, so we've seen the challenges, right? We've talked a little bit around them. We've talked about what they mean, how they all kind of come into play. But let's kind of talk about the kind of the graduate and apprenticeship pathways that exist within the industry. So we did some quick research, right? We looked at some of the roles that are coming in for organizations, and there's a mixture, right? There's graduate programs and there's apprenticeship programs. So we've kind of looked at some of what I call the big names. So you've got, the likes of Amy, Arabs, Balfour Beatty, Countryside Properties, JLL, which is Jones Lang LaSalle, Mott McDonald, Redrow Homes, Savills, and Skanska. And we've kind of said, look, we know that these organizations are recruiting, and the reason I chose those is that there's a wide range of sectors that they cover. So, you've got your Countryside Properties, you've got, Mott McDonald on the consultancy side, and Amy on the civil engineering side, Balfour Beatty on the construction side. So, Arabs are offering kind of degree apprenticeships within, and we picked one of the interesting things I thought would be there around rail design. I think that's, a really exciting sector when you think about, we're trying to move everybody from driving cars into, and we know that rail makes it much more sustainable. It helps us look after the environment, but how do we create that connectivity? So the likes of HS2, but that's also what's going to happen locally as well. So that's why I highlighted this as being one of the interesting apprenticeships they're put into play. You got Countryside Properties, which are talking about management trainee apprenticeships. So again, I just wanted to prove that myth that says, every single property and construction company related is all about being out on site. But look at the difference here. We looked at some of the things that the likes of Mott McDonald are doing, where they've got this kind of transport planning, building surveying, civil engineering apprenticeships again. You've got Savills, who are kind of going level 6 and potentially level 7 as in surveying. Skanska focusing on level 2 and level 3. So, this kind of gives you an idea that this is a sector whereby the opportunities to do an apprenticeship are available. They're real, and they're really good pathways to do that. And we've just talked about roles outside the traditional ones, because I know that every time I talk about construction, everybody thinks about being a sparky, everyone thinks about being into carpentry, brickwork and all that type of stuff, but they are very much part of the supply chain, right? What we're talking about here is that, these are the other roles outside of that, which we know you probably aren't aware of, because unless you know someone in that particular space, you're unlikely to be aware of it. And I'll give an example of this. We were at a Jubilee party, and as you can imagine, I'm always talking to parents. I'm talking to, even though they're family and friends and all connected, and I'm always talking to their children. And I was lucky enough in the couple of events I was at, whereby there was a lot of A-level students, first year, second year university students. So I kind of held a little bit of held court, and we were just chatting about different options. And one of them said, I'm doing a degree in quantity surveying, and I was like, wow, okay, that's really interesting, because in my head, I'm thinking, so I asked the question, so how did you go into that? And he said, my dad's a quantity surveyor. And I smiled, because no one else in that kind of peer group understood what he meant by quantity surveillance. But when we got talking about the vast opportunities and the potential, it became quite clear that there's a really big kind of space there. But I go back to that piece whereby it's necessary, let's hopefully through this podcast enlighten what looks out there. So again, the same thing with graduates, right? You could literally do an undergraduate and a postgraduate. There's building and construction management degrees, quantity surveying, architecture, civil engineering, building surveying. So those opportunities you can do as apprenticeships are also available as you to do them as a degree program as well. If you're a graduate coming out of this industry, you're looking in a starting salary between 23 and 30K. If you're an apprentice, you're probably going to start at about the 20K mark, and to be fair, by the time your group graduates, that will be higher. And by the way, this fluctuates, so main contractors will be different from your consultancy side, etc. as well. So, as I said, I go back to this. It is truly a really, really exciting sector to be part of, with huge amount of opportunity. So listen, what I would say to any young person who's really interested in finding out more about this, I think there's the CITB. They're really, really good at kind of giving you an idea of construction trade board. They're quite good at kind of talking about different careers. There's careers in construction. You can have a look at what does that look like. Please reach out to us, and I'm more than happy to open up my contacts and just share my knowledge and experience of the sector and what does that look like, and some of the things we're planning to do over the next probably couple of weeks, if we can get everybody in. We had a bit of disruption with the Jubilee holiday, is we're going to try and get some key influential people within the sector to talk about, what is it that they're looking for, what is it they do, what opportunities are they on offer, what are the challenges they see for the sector, and just kind of have a conversation that helps to bring a bit more of some of the things I've spoken about alive. But also I think it's important to bring these kind of guests onto a show into a podcast like this, because we can then learn from them as we start to work with the early careers talent, and we're helping them look at a pathway that looks like property and construction. You've got more information on that. So look, just to kind of summarize this one, because I think, as I said, it's a really, really exciting sector, right? It's a sector full of huge opportunities. You can travel the world. As I said to someone the other day, you're very unlikely to not be in a job, because there's not a single country in the world that isn't looking to build something or design something or get advice on something. So I think that is really exciting for a young person if you're looking to travel the world and still have a job and not kind of fall into whatever you want to do. Then the property and construction piece is very much, we've identified a place where there's aging population, but there's so much really exciting. I was kind of reading about house builders, and they're trying to build 300,000 homes as part of this kind of, and part of the government's leveling up and building homes for everybody agenda. And it took me back to the thought process of, wow, how do they get these houses built up so fast, so quickly, so sustainable, and working towards that net zero target, and so you see, the fact there's modular building, there's kit houses, and you're like, wow, all the, it literally comes off the lorry, if I'm correct, and they can literally just build it there, and then it's up in a sort of shorter period of time, which means that you've got different attributes to that. So that just shows the kind of the little piece of innovation that's happening. There is so much more coming in, and I think that's going to be why this sector is really, really, really exciting for a young person who's looking to get into a really exciting sector, really get themselves a degree apprenticeship in an environment which is not the same as all their friends are going to, yet they'll earn a lot more, yet they'll have a lot more job satisfaction. So, as I said, the plan is to do this again. We're going to hopefully get someone from an organization who we know are recruiting early career talent and having a challenge. We bring them on here, and hopefully we can talk to them and understand what they're looking for, why they do what they do, what their long-term ambition and outlooks are. So that is it for today, right? I think we've kind of covered property and construction. We've identified what I believe is a really outstanding sector. We've talked about the challenges and how those are turning into opportunities for early careers talent. What does that look like, whether you go down the degree or degree apprenticeship road? And look, if there's anything else that we have missed, anything else you'd like to cover, please, right? Always just drop us a DM or, whatever it takes to kind of get in touch with us, because we're kind of building these kind of podcasts for you, early careers talent, and most importantly for you organizations, so you can attract the best talent from this particular aspect into your business. So listen, thank you very, very much, and I look forward to next week.